Good evening, curious minds. Tonight we'll drift into a slow and gentle journey through the complete story of life on Earth, that fragile yet resilient stream of being that has flowed across billions of years, shaping every corner of our world and every creature, including you. Dim your lights now, letting the harsh brightness of day fade into the welcoming embrace of evening shadows. Settle under your blanket, feeling its comforting weight as it wraps around you like the warm presence of Earth's ancient oceans, rocking life in their slow and steady tides. Let the noise of the day fade away, those urgent thoughts, those pressing concerns, those rapid rhythms of modern life, all dissolving like morning mist, as we prepare to embark on this tranquil voyage through Earth's story of life. And if this calm journey helps you relax, if these gentle words begin to slow your breathing and soften your thoughts, feel free to tap like and subscribe, only if it feels right, only if your finger finds its way there naturally, without effort or strain, like a leaf drifting down to rest upon still water. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and what time it is in your city right now. Are you watching as the sun sets over distant mountains, as city lights begin their evening dance, as dawn approaches with its first shy whispers of light? It's always wonderful to see who's joining us from around the world, fellow travelers on this peaceful journey through the infinite story of life. Now, dim the lights even further, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum that reminds us of the gentle movements of ancient winds, the whispered songs of early tides carrying whispers of oxygen across the vast, peaceful oceans. Tonight we become life's storytellers together, but not the hurried kind that rush through discoveries. Instead, we are the patient observers, the gentle witnesses to the slow, beautiful unfolding of Earth's living history. As you breathe slowly and deeply, imagine yourself floating on a cosmic river that carries you gently backward through time, past the rushing centuries, past the patient millennia, beyond human memory, and into the deep, serene epochs when our planet was learning its first lessons in creating and nurturing life. And as you breathe, we drift together, back beyond memory, beyond story, to the dawn before beginnings. Drift gently now through the vast, peaceful expanse of time, 4.5 billion years into Earth's tender past, and witness our planet as she takes her very first breath. Imagine yourself floating in the cosmic nursery of the early solar system, where gentle forces of gravity are slowly gathering cosmic dust and stellar whispers into the soft, glowing sphere that will become our home. As you breathe slowly and deeply, feeling the rhythm of your lungs filling and releasing, picture Earth breathing too, not with lungs like yours, but with the patient exhale of volcanic gases, the soft inhale of cooling temperatures drawing water vapor from the endless cosmic dance of particles that surround our young world. Like a newborn finding its rhythm, Earth learns to breathe through the gentle transformation of fire into water, of chaos into the serene possibility of oceans. You are witnessing something magical and peaceful, the cooling of Earth's fiery youth into the embrace of her first oceans. Imagine the surface temperature dropping slowly, gradually, like a warm bath cooling to the perfect temperature for rest. The molten rock that once glowed like liquid sunset begins its patient transformation, breathing out steam and gentle gases that will become the atmosphere, exhaling the very elements that will cradle life in their soft embrace. As you float through this ancient time, breathing slowly, as you watch the dance of temperature and chemistry unfold, notice how the first clouds gather like soft cotton blankets across Earth's surface. These are not the hurried storm clouds of today, but gentle, patient formations that move like slow-motion ballet dancers across the darkening sky, carrying within them the promise of Earth's first peaceful rains. And when those rains begin to fall, they fall with the gentleness of tears of joy, each drop a tiny messenger carrying salts and minerals from the cooling rocks, creating the first shallow pools that will become the cradle of all life. Picture yourself sitting beside one of these ancient tide pools, warm and inviting as a perfectly drawn bath, watching as the gentle chemistry of Earth's early atmosphere mingles with the mineral-rich water, creating the soft, bubbling possibility of something beautiful and alive. In the warm embrace of these primordial waters, molecules begin their patient dance of possibility, like partners learning their steps in the slowest, most graceful waltz ever choreographed. Carbon and hydrogen, nitrogen, and phosphorus drift together in the gentle currents, guided by the subtle forces that govern all chemistry, all creation, all the peaceful processes that will eventually blossom into the magnificent complexity of life on Earth. Breathe with the rhythm of these ancient tides as they flow gently back and forth across the young continents, each wave carrying new combinations of elements, new possibilities for the emergence of something that has never existed before in the vast, patient cosmos. The tides move like the breath of a sleeping giant, slow and steady and deeply peaceful, creating the perfect conditions for life's first tentative experiments with existence. As you drift deeper into this ancient reverie, imagine the mineral lanterns scattered across Earth's surface, crystals and salts that glow softly in the gentle light of the young sun, each one a tiny beacon containing the elements that will become part of every living thing: iron that will flow through the bloodstream of creatures not yet dreamed of, calcium that will form the shells and bones of future ocean dwellers, phosphorus that will become the backbone of the mysterious molecule called DNA, carrying forward the gentle instructions for life's infinite creativity. In these peaceful moments of Earth's youth, ancient stories whisper to us across the eons. The Greeks spoke of Gaia, the Earth Mother, who breathed life into being through her gentle embrace of sky and sea. The Egyptians told of Nun, the primordial waters that held all possibility in their dark, nurturing depths. Indigenous cultures around the world spoke of Sky Mothers and Earth Fathers, whose patient love created the perfect conditions for life to flourish and grow. These are not merely myths, but deep recognitions of the profound truth you are witnessing now, that Earth itself breathes with the rhythm of creation, that the planet's patient chemistry and gentle atmospheric embrace created the perfect nursery for life's emergence. As you breathe in harmony with these ancient processes, you become part of this eternal story, your own breath connected to the first atmospheric gases, your own heartbeat synchronized with the gentle tides that rocked life into existence. The soft blankets of Earth's early oceans stretch to every horizon, their surface stirred only by the gentlest winds carrying the whispers of volcanic gases across the water. Beneath these peaceful waves, the seafloor spreads like a vast, soft carpet, dotted with mineral gardens, where underwater springs release their patient streams of heated water, rich with the dissolved elements of the cooling rock below. Picture yourself diving gently beneath these ancient waves, breathing easily as you explore the underwater landscape of Earth's infancy. Here, in the warm embrace of underwater springs and mineral-rich pools, chemistry begins its slow, graceful dance of experimentation. Molecules drift together and apart like dancers trying different partners, guided by the subtle forces of attraction and affinity that govern all peaceful processes in the natural world. And in this underwater ballet, something begins to stir, not yet life as we know it, but the patient groundwork for life's eventual emergence. Simple organic molecules, the building blocks that will eventually assemble themselves into the miracle of living cells, begin to form in the gentle laboratory of Earth's primordial seas. These molecules are like scattered puzzle pieces, each one beautiful in its own right, slowly gathering in tide pools and underwater gardens, where they will have billions of years to experiment with new forms of organization and complexity. As you breathe slowly and deeply, floating peacefully through this ancient ocean, notice how every element seems to be waiting patiently for its role in the grand story that is about to unfold. The carbon atoms that drift through the water carry within them the potential to become the backbone of every protein, every strand of DNA, every cell membrane that will eventually divide the living from the non-living. The nitrogen molecules dissolved in the gentle waves hold the promise of becoming the amino acids that will form the first proteins, the molecular machines that will power all life's processes. The phosphorus scattered across the seafloor like tiny seeds of possibility will one day become the energy currency of all living things, the ATP molecules that power every heartbeat, every breath, every thought that passes through a living mind. Even the simple salts dissolved in these ancient waters, sodium and chloride, magnesium and potassium, will become the electrical messengers that allow nerve cells to communicate, creating the possibility for sensation, for consciousness, for the very awareness with which you observe this peaceful scene. In the gentle warmth of these primordial tide pools, bubbling softly with the patient chemistry of creation, Earth begins to dream of life. The dream is not yet real, but the conditions for its fulfillment are falling into place with the slow, inexorable grace of natural processes that have all the time in the universe to create something beautiful and lasting. And as these tiny lanterns exhaled their first gentle breaths, rivers of possibility began to flow, carrying us forward toward the first chapters of life's eternal story. Drift gently forward, now through 500 million years of patient waiting, and witness the moment when Earth's dreaming finally blossoms into the reality of life. As you float peacefully through this ancient ocean, breathing slowly and deeply, imagine the soft shimmer that begins to appear in the warm tide pools. Not quite light, not quite shadow, but something new and miraculous that has never existed before in the vast cosmos. You are witnessing the emergence of the first simple cells, floating like tiny bubbles of possibility in the mineral-rich waters of primordial Earth. These earliest forms of life are so simple, so elegant in their design, that they seem more like gentle thoughts than living creatures. Single cells without the complex internal organization that will come later, carrying within their soft membranes the essential spark that separates the living from the non-living. Breathe with the rhythm of these ancient waters, as the first prokaryotic life forms drift through the ocean like morning mist, learning to breathe not the oxygen that will one day fill Earth's atmosphere, but the subtle chemical whispers available in this early world. They feed on hydrogen sulfide from underwater springs, on iron dissolved from the patient weathering of rocks, on the methane that bubbles gently up from the seafloor like the Earth's own soft laughter. These first living beings are the patient pioneers of existence, teaching themselves the fundamental arts that all life will need to master: how to gather energy from the environment, how to grow and reproduce, how to maintain the delicate chemical balance that keeps the spark of life burning steadily through time. Watch them as they drift through the water like living prayers, each one a small miracle of organization and purpose in the vast supportive embrace of the early ocean. As you breathe slowly and peacefully, following the gentle rhythm of these ancient tides, notice how life begins to experiment with one of the most important innovations in Earth's history, the patient art of photosynthesis. In the warm, shallow waters where sunlight filters down through the crystal-clear atmosphere, some of these simple cells begin to learn how to capture the gentle energy of sunlight and use it to build their own food from the carbon dioxide dissolved in the water. This is life's first great gift to the world: the ability to take the simple, non-living ingredients of rock and water and air, and transform them into the complex molecules of life through the patient alchemy of sunlight and chemistry. Picture these early photosynthetic bacteria as tiny green lanterns floating just beneath the surface of the water, glowing softly with the captured energy of the sun, breathing in carbon dioxide and breathing out the first whispers of oxygen that will eventually transform Earth's atmosphere. But this transformation happens slowly, gently, over millions of patient years. The oxygen produced by these early photosynthetic cells does not immediately fill the atmosphere. Instead, it flows into the iron-rich waters where it combines with dissolved metals, creating beautiful bands of oxidized minerals that settle slowly to the seafloor, like layers of ancient poetry written in stone. These banded iron formations, preserved in rocks that you can still touch today, are Earth's diary entries from this peaceful time when life was learning to breathe light and exhale possibility. As you drift through these ancient waters, imagine yourself witnessing the slow, graceful process of planetary transformation, not the violent upheavals that we sometimes imagine, but the patient work of countless tiny organisms, each one contributing its small gift to the great project of making Earth habitable for more complex forms of life. In the warm shallows where these early cells gather, communities begin to form, not through conscious choice, but through the gentle tendency of life to cluster together in places where conditions are most favorable. These earliest communities, called stromatolites, grow like slow-motion coral reefs, layer upon layer of bacterial mats that trap sediment and minerals, building structures that rise slowly from the seafloor, like natural cathedrals dedicated to the patient art of living. Picture yourself walking through an underwater garden of these stromatolites, breathing easily as you explore their gentle curves and patient architecture. Each structure represents hundreds of thousands of years of gradual growth, layer upon layer of bacterial communities living and dying and leaving behind their mineral signatures, creating a fossil record that preserves the memory of Earth's earliest experiments with life. These stromatolite gardens stretch to every horizon in the shallow seas of early Earth, their rounded forms breaking the surface of the water like the backs of gentle giants resting in the warm sun. In the spaces between them, other forms of early life drift and settle, simple cells that have learned to swim by waving tiny flagella like microscopic oars, others that tumble peacefully through the water powered by the patient rotation of cellular motors too small to see but perfectly efficient in their design. As you breathe in harmony with these ancient processes, notice how the chemistry of life begins to establish the patterns that will persist for billions of years. DNA, the master molecule that carries the instructions for building and maintaining living things, begins its patient work of replication and variation. Like a master calligrapher writing the same beautiful poem over and over, but adding tiny variations with each copy, DNA learns to preserve the essential information of life, while allowing for the gentle changes that will drive evolution's creative exploration of possibility. RNA, DNA's more versatile cousin, serves as both message and messenger in these early cells, carrying instructions from the genetic library to the cellular factories where proteins are assembled with the patience and precision of master craftsmen. These first proteins fold themselves into elegant shapes that allow them to serve as tools and catalysts, speeding up the chemical reactions that keep life running smoothly, each enzyme a perfect key designed to unlock specific doors in the vast mansion of cellular chemistry. The cell membranes that separate these early life forms from their environment are marvels of selective permeability, allowing helpful molecules to enter while keeping harmful substances outside. They function like the perfect skin, breathing with the rhythm of the cell's needs, expanding and contracting as the cell grows and divides, maintaining the delicate internal environment where life's chemistry can proceed with optimal efficiency. Inside these first cells, the process of metabolism establishes the fundamental rhythm of all life, the patient conversion of raw materials into energy and structure, the careful balance of building up and breaking down that allows living things to maintain themselves over time while growing and reproducing. Like a gentle fire that burns without consuming itself, metabolism creates the steady flame of life that will burn continuously from these first cells down through billions of years to the very cells that make up your body as you rest peacefully, breathing slowly and deeply. As you float through this underwater garden of early life, notice how even at this fundamental level, the processes of existence show a profound intelligence, not the conscious intelligence of thinking beings, but the deeper intelligence of natural systems that organize themselves into patterns of incredible beauty and efficiency. The spiral of DNA, the folded architecture of proteins, the flowing dynamics of cell membranes, all of these display the same mathematical elegance that governs the formation of galaxies and the patient orbits of planets around their stars. This is the intelligence of the cosmos, expressing itself through the patient chemistry of carbon and water, nitrogen and phosphorus, creating forms of organization so sophisticated that they can preserve themselves over time, adapt to changing conditions, and even reproduce themselves with enough variation to ensure that life can explore new possibilities as circumstances change. And in this gentle exploration of possibility, life begins to discover one of its most important innovations, the patient art of cooperation. Even these simple single cells begin to work together, sharing nutrients and protection, creating the first tentative experiments in the collaboration that will eventually lead to the complex partnerships that make possible all higher forms of life. With each gentle breath of these primordial waters, with each soft pulse of cellular life learning its eternal rhythms, we drift toward life's next great discovery, the patient art of complexity through cooperation. Drift gently forward through another billion years of patient evolution, breathing slowly as you witness one of the most beautiful and transformative events in the history of life on Earth. As you float peacefully through these ancient waters, imagine the soft glow that begins to appear within the simple cells you've been observing, not an external light but an internal luminescence that signals the beginning of life's most elegant partnership. You are about to witness the emergence of complex cells, the eukaryotes, through a process so gentle and gradual that it resembles the slow formation of friendship more than the dramatic conquest we might expect. Picture yourself as a tiny observer inside one of these ancient cells, watching as smaller bacterial cells drift into the larger host cell, not as invaders, but as potential partners in the great experiment of living. Breathe with the rhythm of this cellular dance as these smaller bacteria, specialists in the art of processing oxygen, settle gently into the welcoming cytoplasm of their host. Instead of being digested as food, these bacterial visitors find themselves embraced as permanent residents, offered protection and nutrients in exchange for their expertise in energy production. This is symbiosis in its most elegant form, the patient recognition that life becomes stronger and more capable through cooperation rather than competition. These bacterial partners, which scientists now call mitochondria, become the powerhouses of the complex cell, learning to work in perfect harmony with their host's metabolism. Like tiny furnaces burning with the gentle fire of controlled chemical reactions, they convert nutrients and oxygen into the cellular energy currency called ATP, providing their host cell with the abundant energy needed to support more sophisticated forms of organization and activity. As you breathe slowly and deeply, watching this partnership develop over millions of patient years, notice how the presence of these internal energy specialists allows the host cell to grow larger and more complex. The cell develops an internal architecture of stunning elegance, a nucleus to house and protect the genetic library, an endoplasmic reticulum that serves as a network of internal highways for transporting materials, Golgi apparatus that function like cellular post offices, sorting and shipping proteins to their proper destinations. Picture yourself exploring this internal landscape, like a peaceful journey through a microscopic city, where every structure serves a purpose. Every organelle contributes to the smooth functioning of the whole. The mitochondria pulse gently with their energy production, breathing in oxygen and nutrients, and breathing out the ATP that powers every cellular process. They are like tiny hearts beating within the heart of the cell, their rhythmic activity creating the energetic foundation for all the complex chemistry of life. But the mitochondria are not the only partners to join this cellular community. In some cells, other bacterial specialists in photosynthesis also find welcome, becoming the chloroplasts that will eventually allow plant cells to capture sunlight and convert it directly into food. These green partners bring with them the ancient art of breathing light, adding their patient photosynthetic rhythms to the complex symphony of cellular cooperation. As you drift through these evolving communities of cellular partners, breathing in harmony with their gentle rhythms, notice how this internal cooperation allows for innovations that were impossible in simpler cells. The genetic material, now safely housed within the nucleus, can be organized more efficiently and copied more accurately. The cell can grow larger without losing the ability to transport materials effectively throughout its volume. Most importantly, the abundant energy provided by mitochondrial partners allows for the development of more sophisticated cellular behaviors and responses. These complex cells begin to experiment with new forms of movement, growing flexible projections called pseudopodia that flow like slow-motion rivers of cellular material, allowing the cell to crawl gracefully across surfaces in search of food or optimal conditions. Others develop elegant swimming apparatus, cilia and flagella, that beat with coordinated rhythm, like the oars of a perfectly synchronized rowing team, propelling the cell through the water with smooth, efficient grace. The development of these complex cells represents a quantum leap in life's creative potential, but it happens with the same patient gradualness that has characterized every step of evolution so far. Over hundreds of millions of years, these cellular partnerships refine their cooperation, optimize their energy production, and explore new possibilities for organization and behavior. Imagine yourself witnessing the slow diversification of these complex cells as they spread throughout Earth's oceans, each lineage exploring different strategies for making a living in the patient waters of the ancient seas. Some become expert hunters, developing sophisticated mechanisms for capturing and digesting other cells. Others specialize in photosynthesis, creating the first plant-like organisms that can manufacture their own food from sunlight and simple chemicals. Still others become masters of decomposition, recycling the organic matter left behind by other organisms and returning essential nutrients to the ecosystem. Each evolutionary experiment adds to the growing complexity and stability of Earth's living systems, creating a web of interdependence that supports an ever-increasing diversity of life forms. As you breathe slowly and peacefully, floating through this ancient ocean teeming with microscopic innovation, notice how the presence of mitochondria begins to transform not just individual cells, but the chemistry of the entire planet. The oxygen-breathing metabolism of these cellular powerhouses helps to process the growing amounts of oxygen being produced by photosynthetic organisms, preventing the accumulation of this reactive gas to levels that might be harmful to life. At the same time, the efficient energy production of mitochondria-containing cells allows them to grow and reproduce more rapidly, increasing the overall productivity of Earth's ecosystems and creating more complex food webs that can support greater diversity of life forms. The patient cooperation between cellular partners becomes a model for the cooperation between species that will eventually create the intricate ecological relationships that sustain all life on Earth. The genetic innovations that emerge from these cellular partnerships also lay the groundwork for one of life's most important future developments, the evolution of sexual reproduction. The complex cellular machinery for organizing and copying genetic material, refined through hundreds of millions of years of mitochondrial partnership, will eventually allow cells to combine their genetic libraries with those of other cells, creating offspring that carry genetic contributions from multiple parents. This genetic mixing will accelerate evolution's exploration of new possibilities by creating new combinations of traits in each generation, allowing life to adapt more rapidly to changing conditions and to explore evolutionary pathways that would be impossible through simple cell division alone. But that innovation still lies in the patient future as you float through these ancient seas, watching the slow perfection of cellular cooperation that makes all future complexity possible. As you breathe in harmony with the gentle rhythms of these ancient cellular partnerships, Feel yourself connected to this fundamental process of cooperation that continues in your own body at this very moment. The mitochondria in your cells are the direct descendants of those first bacterial partners, still breathing with the same efficient rhythm, still converting nutrients and oxygen into the energy that powers your heartbeat, your breathing, your thoughts as you drift peacefully through this story of life's patient creativity. And with each partnership complete, each cellular cooperation perfected through patient time, life blossomed toward its next great adventure, the patient art of growing together into forms of even greater beauty and complexity. Drift gently forward through 900 million years of peaceful evolution, breathing slowly as you witness life's next beautiful experiment in cooperation. As you float through these ancient waters, imagine the soft transformation that begins to occur among the complex cells you've been observing, a gentle reaching toward each other, a patient exploration of the possibilities that emerge when individual cells choose to remain connected, rather than living in solitary independence. You are witnessing the emergence of multicellular life, but not as a sudden event or dramatic transformation. Instead, picture this development as the slow formation of a community garden, where individual cells gradually discover that they can accomplish far more together than any single cell could achieve alone. Like neighbors learning to share resources and responsibilities, these cells begin to experiment with staying connected after cell division, forming small colonies that function as unified organisms. Breathe with the rhythm of these early multicellular experiments, as simple chains and clusters of cells drift through the water, like living jewelry, each cell maintaining its individual identity while contributing to the success of the whole. Some of these early colonial organisms resemble strings of pearls, each cell capable of independent survival but choosing to remain connected through thin bridges of cytoplasm that allow them to share nutrients and coordinate their activities. Others form hollow spheres or flat sheets of cells, creating new possibilities for interaction with the environment. A spherical colony can roll through the water with coordinated movement, while a flat colonial sheet can increase its surface area for more efficient feeding or photosynthesis. Each arrangement represents a different solution to the fundamental challenges of living, finding food, avoiding harm, growing and reproducing successfully in an ever-changing environment. As you drift peacefully through these colonial communities, notice how the connected cells begin to experiment with specialization. In the patient laboratory of evolutionary time, some cells in a colony start to focus on specific tasks, while relying on their neighbors to handle other essential functions. Some cells become expert swimmers, developing powerful flagella and focusing their energy on propelling the entire colony through the water. Others specialize in food production, maximizing their photosynthetic capability to nourish not just themselves but their swimming partners as well. Still other cells become specialists in reproduction, developing the complex cellular machinery needed to create new colonies while leaving the tasks of feeding and movement to their partners. This division of labor allows each cell type to become exceptionally good at its specialized function, while being supported by the specialized abilities of its cellular partners. A beautiful example of cooperation creating capabilities that exceed the sum of individual contributions. Picture yourself exploring one of these early multicellular organisms like a gentle journey through a living cathedral, where each cell is both an individual worshipper and a structural element contributing to the beauty and function of the whole. The cells communicate through chemical signals that flow like whispered conversations through the connecting channels between them, coordinating their activities and responding as a unified organism to changes in their environment. As you breathe slowly and deeply, following the peaceful rhythms of these ancient communities, watch how some lineages begin to experiment with even more sophisticated forms of organization. Cells on the outside of a colony develop different characteristics from those in the interior, creating the first tentative experiments with tissue formation. The outer cells might specialize in protection or interaction with the environment, while the inner cells focus on digestion, reproduction, or other internal functions. These tissue-level innovations open up entirely new possibilities for multicellular design. An organism with differentiated tissues can create specialized regions for different functions, feeding areas equipped with cells optimized for capturing and processing food, reproductive regions where specialized cells focus on creating the next generation, protective surfaces where cells develop tough outer walls or defensive chemicals. The patient evolution of cell-to-cell communication systems allows these early multicellular organisms to coordinate increasingly complex behaviors. Chemical signals flow through the organism, like messages in a vast, gentle network, allowing cells in one region to respond to conditions detected by cells in distant parts of the organism. This primitive nervous system enables coordinated responses that make the entire organism more effective at finding food, avoiding predators, and reproducing successfully. As you float through the diverse communities of these early multicellular experiments, breathing in harmony with their gentle rhythms, notice how the ocean environment of this time period provides the perfect nursery for these innovations. The waters are warm and rich with nutrients, providing abundant resources to support the energy requirements of increasingly complex organisms. The chemistry of the ocean has stabilized into conditions that support robust cell metabolism, while providing the dissolved minerals and trace elements needed for sophisticated cellular machinery. The first primitive plants begin to appear during this period, multicellular photosynthetic organisms that create underwater forests of green ribbons and soft, flowing forms. These early algae develop specialized structures for anchoring themselves to the seafloor while extending photosynthetic surfaces toward the sunlight, filtering down through the clear water. Like living prayer flags waving gently in the underwater currents, they transform the barren seafloor into gardens of productivity that support increasingly diverse communities of other organisms. Some of these early plants experiment with creating more complex body plans, developing root-like holdfasts for secure attachment, stem-like structures for support and transport of materials, and leaf-like photosynthetic organs optimized for capturing light. Each innovation represents hundreds of thousands of generations of patient evolution, gradual improvements in design that enhance the plant's ability to thrive in its aquatic environment. The first primitive animals also emerged during this peaceful period, beginning as simple collections of cells organized around basic functions like feeding and reproduction. Some resemble modern sponges, creating living filters that pump water through their bodies to extract nutrients and oxygen. Others develop the first tentative muscle cells that allow for coordinated movement, creating primitive swimming and crawling behaviors that open up new ecological niches and feeding strategies. These early animals experiment with different approaches to obtaining food, some becoming filter feeders that strain nutrients from the water, others developing into active hunters that pursue smaller organisms, still others specializing in decomposition and recycling of organic matter. Each feeding strategy creates new ecological relationships and opportunities, contributing to the growing complexity and stability of marine ecosystems. The development of predation, described here not as violent struggle, but as patient ecological relationship, creates the evolutionary pressures that drive innovation in both hunters and their prey. Prey organisms develop better escape mechanisms, camouflage, and defensive structures, while predators evolve more efficient hunting strategies and sensory capabilities. This gentle evolutionary dance of adaptation and counter-adaptation accelerates the pace of innovation and creates the selective pressures that favor increasingly sophisticated multicellular designs. As you breathe slowly and peacefully, witnessing this ancient flowering of multicellular creativity, notice how each innovation builds patiently on previous developments. The cellular cooperation, perfected by the earliest colonial organisms, provides the foundation for tissue formation. Tissue-level organization enables the development of organ systems. Organ systems make possible the complex body plans that will eventually support the incredible diversity of life forms that populate modern ecosystems. This patient progression from single cells to simple colonies to complex multicellular organisms represents nearly 1 billion years of gradual experimentation and refinement. Each step opens up new possibilities while building on the successful innovations of previous generations. The result is not chaos or random change, but a beautiful unfolding of increasing complexity and capability that prepares the stage for life's next great flowering, the explosion of diversity that will transform the oceans and eventually colonize the land. With each joining complete, each thread of cooperation woven into the growing tapestry of life, we drift toward the golden age of marine diversity, where the patient experiments of multicellular organization will blossom into forms of breathtaking beauty and complexity. Drift gently forward through 60 million years of extraordinary creativity, breathing slowly as you witness what may be the most beautiful period in the entire history of life on Earth. As you float peacefully through these ancient waters, imagine the soft transformation of the seafloor beneath you. What was once a relatively simple landscape of bacterial mats and primitive multicellular organisms now blooms into underwater gardens of incredible diversity and elegance. You are witnessing the Cambrian blossoming, though scientists often call it an explosion because of the rapid pace of evolutionary innovation. But here in the gentle embrace of deep time, this transformation unfolds like the world's most patient garden coming into flower. each new form of life emerging with the gradual grace of sunrise spreading across a vast landscape, illuminating possibilities that were always present but never before expressed in living form. Breathe with the rhythm of these warm, shallow seas as they become populated with creatures of stunning beauty and ingenuity. The trilobites, those master engineers of the ancient ocean, glide gracefully across the seafloor on their numerous jointed legs, their compound eyes, the first sophisticated visual systems in Earth's history, scanning the water for food and opportunities. Like living gems scattered across the ocean floor, they come in hundreds of different forms, each one an elegant solution to the challenges of life in these productive marine ecosystems. Picture yourself swimming gently alongside these ancient arthropods as they demonstrate innovations that seem almost impossibly sophisticated for such early animals. Some trilobites develop eyes with hundreds of individual lenses, creating panoramic vision that allows them to detect the slightest movement in their environment. Others perfect the art of enrollment, rolling themselves into perfect protective spheres when threatened, like living pills that can wait patiently for danger to pass before resuming their peaceful exploration of the seafloor. The brachiopods spread across the shallow seas like underwater flowers, their elegant shells opening and closing with the gentle rhythm of filter feeding, creating currents that draw nutrient-rich water across their feeding organs. Unlike the simple filtering mechanisms of earlier life forms, these creatures develop sophisticated systems of internal channels and specialized tissues that can extract maximum nutrition from the water while maintaining the perfect balance of internal chemistry. As you drift deeper into this underwater garden, breathing slowly and peacefully, notice how the first true fish begin to appear. Not yet the familiar fish with jaws and fins that will dominate later seas, but gentle, jawless creatures that glide through the water like living ribbons. These early vertebrates, our distant ancestors, developed the revolutionary innovation of an internal skeleton, a flexible rod of cartilage that provides structural support while allowing for graceful, undulating movement through the water. The agnatha, as scientists call these first fish, represent one of life's most important experiments in body plan design. By moving the structural support from outside the body like shells and external skeletons to inside the body, they create possibilities for growth and movement that will eventually lead to all the vertebrate animals, fish and amphibians, reptiles and birds, mammals and ultimately humans. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this Cambrian flowering is not any single innovation, but the sheer creativity and diversity of forms that emerge during this peaceful period. The Burgess Shale and other fossil deposits from this time preserve a gallery of creatures so imaginative that they seem almost like the products of artistic inspiration rather than evolutionary process. Picture yourself exploring this underwater museum of living art, where creatures like Opabinia glide gracefully through the water, with their 5 mushroom-shaped eyes and long feeding proboscis, tipped with a grasping claw, perfectly designed for plucking small prey from the seafloor with surgical precision. Wiwaxia crawls slowly across the bottom covered in protective spines and scales, like a living medieval knight exploring the gentle battlefields of the Cambrian Sea. Halluciginia walks on 7 pairs of spiny stilts, while its back bristles with protective spikes, creating a form so unusual that paleontologists initially reconstructed it upside down, unable to imagine how such an elegant creature could maintain its balance and mobility. These animals represent evolutionary experiments in body design that were successful in their time but led to no modern descendants, reminders of the incredible creativity that characterizes life's exploration of possibility. As you breathe in harmony with the gentle currents that carry you through these diverse communities, notice how each creature represents a different solution to the fundamental challenges of living in the marine environment of this time. The development of hard shells and external skeletons provides protection from predators while creating rigid attachment points for powerful muscles. The evolution of sophisticated sensory organs, eyes, chemical detectors, vibration sensors, allows animals to navigate their environment with unprecedented precision and awareness. The first true predators emerge during this period, developing hunting strategies and specialized feeding apparatus that create new ecological relationships throughout the marine ecosystem. But even predation, when viewed through the lens of deep time, becomes a gentle force for innovation rather than a source of violent struggle. The patient pressure of predator-prey relationships drives the evolution of better camouflage, more effective defensive structures, improved escape mechanisms, and enhanced sensory capabilities. Anomalocaris, the apex predator of the Cambrian seas, glides through the water like a graceful submarine, propelling itself with undulating fins while using its flexible front appendages to capture prey with surprising gentleness. These meter-long giants demonstrate that even the most effective predators of their time relied more on patience and precision than on brute force, creating hunting strategies that minimized energy expenditure while maximizing success. The development of mineralized skeletons during this period represents one of the most important innovations in the history of life, but it emerges gradually through the patient exploration of different approaches to structural support and protection. Some organisms experiment with calcium carbonate, creating shells and tests of incredible beauty and strength. Others work with calcium phosphate, building internal skeletons that provide structural support while remaining flexible and responsive to muscular control. Still others develop silicon-based structures, creating glass-like skeletal elements that are both lightweight and remarkably strong. Each approach to biomineralization represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement, gradual improvements in the chemistry and architecture of biological structures that create new possibilities for size, complexity, and environmental interaction. As you float peacefully through this ancient ocean, breathing slowly as you observe the patient interactions between these diverse creatures, notice how the Cambrian blossoming creates the foundation for all future marine ecosystems. The basic body plans that emerge during this period: arthropods with jointed legs and compound eyes, mollusks with shells and muscular feet, echinoderms with their unique five-fold symmetry, vertebrates with internal skeletons and sophisticated nervous systems, will persist and diversify through all subsequent geological periods. The ecological relationships established during the Cambrian, predator and prey, filter feeder and detritivore, burrower and surface dweller, create the complex web of interactions that characterizes all healthy marine ecosystems. Each species fills a particular niche in this underwater community, contributing to the overall stability and productivity of the system while depending on other species for resources and opportunities. The reef communities that develop during this period transform the marine landscape from relatively flat expanses of sediment into three-dimensional underwater cities with complex architecture and diverse habitats. These early reefs, built by creatures like Archaeocyathra, ancient sponge-like animals, create the vertical structure that allows for much greater species diversity by providing numerous microhabitats and ecological niches within a relatively small area. As you breathe in the patient rhythm of these ancient seas, feel yourself connected to this foundational period of animal evolution that established the basic patterns of multicellular life that continue to this day. The innovations pioneered during the Cambrian, complex eyes, sophisticated nervous systems, mineralized skeletons, efficient locomotion, specialized feeding apparatus, provide the toolkit that all subsequent animal evolution will use to explore new environments and ecological opportunities. With each blossom complete, each innovation perfected in the patient laboratory of the Cambrian seas, life found its rhythm and began to mature into forms of even greater complexity, preparing for the gentle conquest of new frontiers beyond the embrace of the ancient oceans. Drift gently forward through 180 million years of patient exploration, breathing slowly as you witness one of the most profound transformations in the history of life on Earth. As you float peacefully between the ancient seas and the emerging shores, imagine yourself witnessing the gentle courage required for life to leave the supportive embrace of the ocean and venture onto the harsh, empty continents that stretch like vast, rocky canvases waiting for their first touch of green. You are observing life's patient migration from water to land, but this is not a sudden exodus or dramatic conquest. Instead, picture this transformation as the slow advance of a living tide, with each wave reaching a little further up the shore, each generation adapting gradually to the challenges and opportunities of terrestrial existence. The transition unfolds over millions of patient years, with countless experiments in living between two worlds. Breathe with the rhythm of the tidal pools where this great transition begins, watching as primitive plants begin their gentle exploration of the margins between sea and land. The first pioneers are simple green algae that learn to survive brief periods of exposure to air when the tide retreats, developing waxy coatings on their surfaces to prevent water loss and creating the first tentative foothold for life in the terrestrial environment. As you drift closer to these ancient shorelines, notice how these early plant pioneers gradually develop more sophisticated strategies for surviving on land. Some begin to grow in mats that can trap moisture and create their own microenvironments, tiny oases of humidity that allow them to extend their range further from the water's edge. Others develop simple root-like structures that can absorb water from moist soil, beginning the patient exploration of the vast reservoir of moisture hidden beneath the land's surface. The development of vascular systems, networks of internal tubes for transporting water and nutrients, represents one of the most important innovations in plant evolution, allowing these early terrestrial plants to grow taller and extend their reach both deeper into the soil and higher toward the sunlight. Like the circulatory systems of animals, these vascular networks enable plants to maintain the delicate water balance necessary for cellular function while exploring new environments and ecological opportunities. Picture yourself walking through one of the earliest terrestrial forests, breathing easily as you explore this alien landscape of primitive plants, creating Earth's first experiments in three-dimensional terrestrial ecosystems. The giant club mosses, some reaching heights of 30 meters or more, create cathedral-like spaces beneath their canopies, their simple leaves filtering the sunlight into gentle patterns of light and shadow that dance across the forest floor. Primitive ferns spread their delicate fronds like living fans, each leaflet perfectly designed to capture maximum sunlight while minimizing water loss. These early forests are unlike any modern woodland. There are no flowers or fruits, no birds or mammals, just the patient rustle of primitive leaves in the ancient wind, and the soft splash of amphibians moving between forest pools. The horsetails, descendants of which still grow in modern marshes and disturbed areas, create dense thickets along streams and in wet meadows, their jointed stems and whorled branches giving them an almost bamboo-like appearance. These plants experiment with different approaches to reproduction, some developing specialized cone-like structures that release clouds of spores into the wind, hoping that some will land in suitable locations for establishing new colonies. As you breathe slowly and peacefully, watching the patient development of these terrestrial plant communities, notice how their presence begins to transform the very geology of the continents. Plant roots, penetrating deep into rock crevices and soil layers, accelerate the process of weathering and erosion, breaking down rocks and creating the deep, rich soils that will support future forests and grasslands. The first trees develop bark, protective tissue that allows them to survive fires, droughts, and other environmental challenges, while continuing to grow year after year. This innovation enables plants to invest energy in long-term structure building rather than having to regrow their entire above-ground portion each year, creating the possibility for forests with complex vertical structure and long-term ecological stability. Following the plants onto land come the first terrestrial animals, beginning with tiny arthropods, primitive spiders, millipedes, and early insects that find abundant food and shelter in the expanding plant communities. These first land animals face challenges unknown to their marine ancestors: the risk of desiccation, the need to support their body weight without the buoyancy of water, the requirement for new respiratory systems that can extract oxygen from air rather than water. Watch as primitive amphibians make their patient journey from water to land, spending their larval stages in ponds and streams as fish-like tadpoles, before metamorphosing into air-breathing adults capable of living on land, while still returning to water for reproduction. These pioneer vertebrates develop lungs for breathing air, stronger skeletons for supporting their weight against gravity, and limbs with digits for locomotion on solid surfaces. The early amphibians, some as large as modern crocodiles, explore the possibilities of terrestrial predation and herbivory, developing new feeding strategies and ecological relationships that have no parallels in marine ecosystems. Some become expert hunters of the arthropods that populate the forest floor, while others experiment with plant eating, developing digestive systems capable of processing the tough cellulose that makes up plant cell walls. As you drift through these ancient forests, breathing in harmony with the patient rhythms of terrestrial life, notice how the colonization of land creates entirely new evolutionary pressures and opportunities. The abundance of sunlight on land surfaces allows plants to photosynthesize more efficiently than their aquatic ancestors, creating more energy for growth and reproduction, while also producing more oxygen as a byproduct of photosynthesis. The three-dimensional structure of terrestrial ecosystems creates numerous microhabitats and ecological niches that don't exist in aquatic environments. Canopy layers with different light and moisture conditions, soil horizons with varying chemistry and biology, seasonal variations in temperature and precipitation that create temporal niches for different species and life stages. The development of seeds represents another major innovation that enhances plants' ability to colonize terrestrial environments successfully. Unlike spores, which require specific moisture conditions for germination and early growth, seeds contain their own food supply and protective coating, allowing them to survive harsh conditions and delay germination until environmental conditions are favorable for seedling establishment and growth. Some of the earliest seed plants, the seed ferns, combine the reproductive advantages of seeds with the photosynthetic efficiency of fern-like leaves, creating highly successful lineages that dominate many terrestrial ecosystems for millions of years. These plants develop increasingly sophisticated reproductive strategies, including the first primitive flowers and the beginnings of the complex pollination relationships that will become so important in later terrestrial ecosystems. The coal forests of the late Carboniferous period represent the culmination of this early terrestrial experimentation, creating vast swampy woodlands where giant club mosses, horsetails, and early conifers grow in dense stands that accumulate enormous amounts of organic matter. When these forests are buried and compressed over geological time, they become the coal deposits that will power human civilization hundreds of millions of years later. As you breathe slowly and peacefully, witnessing the patient transformation of the continents from barren rock to green, productive ecosystems, notice how this colonization of land represents one of the most important expansions of the biosphere in Earth's history. The terrestrial environment offers vast new areas for life to explore and exploit, creating opportunities for evolutionary innovation and species diversification that will eventually lead to the incredible richness of modern terrestrial ecosystems. The atmospheric changes caused by terrestrial photosynthesis also begin to modify Earth's climate in ways that affect the entire planet. The removal of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by plant photosynthesis, combined with the burial of organic matter in coal swamps and other deposits, gradually reduces atmospheric greenhouse gas concentrations and contributes to the cooling that will eventually lead to ice ages and dramatic changes in global climate patterns. With each green pioneer established, each terrestrial innovation perfected through patient time, life prepared for the gentle challenges that would prune and shape its growing complexity, creating space for new forms of beauty to emerge from the eternal cycle of growth and renewal. Drift gently forward through 235 million years of profound transformation, breathing slowly as you witness events that might seem catastrophic from a human perspective, but reveal themselves, in the patient embrace of deep time, as essential chapters in life's story of creative renewal. As you float peacefully through these ancient epochs, imagine yourself as a witness to the gentle but thorough pruning that allows Earth's garden of life to continue growing in new and beautiful directions. You are observing the great mass extinctions, but rather than violent endings, picture these as periods of gentle transition when Earth breathes deeply and slowly, allowing some forms of life to rest eternally, while creating space and opportunity for new experiments in living. Like a master gardener who knows that careful pruning strengthens the whole garden, these extinction events remove older growth to make room for fresh innovation and renewed vitality. Breathe with the rhythm of the Permian transition, the most thorough of these renewal periods, when approximately 90% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial species gradually fade from the fossil record over the course of several million years. This is not the sudden catastrophe we might imagine, but a patient process of environmental change that gently removes species that are too specialized for changing conditions while favoring those with the flexibility to adapt to new circumstances. As you drift through the seas of this transitional time, notice how the changes unfold gradually, like a slow shift in the seasons that some species can follow while others cannot. Ocean chemistry changes slowly as volcanic activity releases gases that acidify the seas and reduce oxygen levels. Climate shifts create new temperature and precipitation patterns that favor different types of plants and animals. Continental positions continue their patient drift, altering ocean currents and regional climates in ways that create new evolutionary pressures and opportunities. The species that survive these transitions share certain characteristics. They tend to be generalists rather than specialists, able to eat a variety of foods and survive in diverse habitats. They often have efficient reproductive strategies that allow rapid population recovery when conditions improve. Most importantly, they possess the genetic flexibility that allows adaptation to changing environmental conditions over relatively short evolutionary timescales. Picture yourself witnessing the patient emergence of new life forms in the aftermath of the Permian renewal, as ecological niches left vacant by extinct species become available for evolutionary exploration. The archosaurs, the group that includes crocodiles, dinosaurs, and birds, begin their gentle rise to dominance during this period, developing innovations in body plan and behavior that allow them to exploit terrestrial environments with unprecedented efficiency. The early dinosaurs represent some of the most successful experiments in vertebrate design ever undertaken by evolution, combining efficient locomotion with sophisticated behavioral adaptations and physiological innovations that allow them to thrive in diverse environments. As you breathe slowly and peacefully, watching these magnificent creatures emerge from the patient laboratory of post-extinction evolution. Notice how they embody principles of design excellence that will persist for over 160 million years. The dinosaurs developed bipedal locomotion that allows for efficient long-distance travel while freeing the front limbs for other uses, grasping, manipulation, and eventually flight. Their respiratory systems incorporate air sacs that create unidirectional airflow through the lungs, providing more efficient oxygen extraction than the bidirectional breathing of mammals. Many species develop sophisticated social behaviors, including cooperative hunting, elaborate courtship displays, and complex parental care strategies. As you drift through the Mesozoic world, breathing in harmony with these ancient rhythms, witness the patient diversification of dinosaur lineages into an incredible array of ecological niches. The sauropods grow to enormous sizes, developing long necks that allow them to browse on vegetation far above the ground, while their massive bodies provide the digestive capacity needed to process huge quantities of plant material. The theropods experiment with different approaches to predation, from the massive tyrannosaurs with their bone-crushing jaws, to the swift, intelligent dromaeosaurs with their sickle-shaped claws and pack-hunting behaviors. The ornithischians develop elaborate defensive structures, horns, spikes, armor plates, and club-like tails that represent sophisticated solutions to the challenges of herbivory in ecosystems populated by large predators. But perhaps the most remarkable dinosaur innovation is the development of flight, achieved through the patient evolution of feathers and the gradual modification of forelimbs into wings. The early birds, still clearly dinosaurian in many of their characteristics, represent one of the most successful evolutionary experiments ever undertaken, opening up the aerial environment for vertebrate exploitation and creating possibilities for global dispersal and ecological diversification that persist to this day. The marine reptiles of this period, ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs, and mosasaurs, demonstrate how thoroughly terrestrial vertebrates can readapt to aquatic life when evolutionary pressures favor such transitions. These creatures develop streamlined body forms, powerful swimming appendages, and sophisticated sensory systems that allow them to compete successfully with fish and other marine organisms, while maintaining the air-breathing metabolism of their terrestrial ancestors. As you breathe slowly and peacefully, floating through the warm seas of the Mesozoic, notice how the plant communities also undergo patient transformation during this period. The gymnosperms, conifers, cycads, and their relatives perfect the seed-bearing reproductive strategy and develop increasingly sophisticated relationships with animal pollinators and seed dispersers. The first flowering plants begin to appear during this time, initially as small, relatively inconspicuous members of forest understory communities, but carrying within their genetic potential the innovations that will eventually transform terrestrial ecosystems. Flowers represent a revolutionary approach to reproduction that allows plants to form specific partnerships with animal pollinators, creating coevolutionary relationships that drive innovation in both plant and animal lineages. The patient spread of flowering plants throughout Mesozoic ecosystems creates new opportunities for insect diversification, as beetles, flies, butterflies, and bees develop increasingly sophisticated relationships with their plant partners. These pollination partnerships become so specific and mutually beneficial that many plants and their pollinators can no longer survive without each other, creating evolutionary bonds that persist across millions of years. Toward the end of this period, Earth experiences another gentle transition as changing environmental conditions favor different evolutionary strategies. The impact of a large asteroid near the end of the Cretaceous period provides the final nudge in a series of environmental changes that have been building for millions of years, creating conditions that favor smaller, more flexible organisms over the giants that have dominated terrestrial ecosystems for so long. Rather than a moment of violent destruction, picture this transition as Earth's gentle exhale after holding its breath through the long Mesozoic summer, creating space for new experiments in living that have been waiting patiently in the shadows of the dominant dinosaur lineages. The mammals, small and nocturnal throughout most of the Mesozoic, suddenly find themselves in a world full of ecological opportunities previously unavailable to them. The birds, already well established as flying dinosaurs, continue their patient exploration of aerial niches, while also diversifying into ground-dwelling and aquatic forms. The crocodiles and other archosaur survivors demonstrate the value of conservative evolutionary strategies, maintaining successful body plans and ecological roles through multiple extinction events by avoiding overspecialization and maintaining flexibility in their environmental requirements. As you drift through this period of gentle transition, breathing slowly as you witness the patient changing of the guard from Mesozoic to Cenozoic life forms. Notice how each extinction event creates opportunities for evolutionary innovation that might not have been possible otherwise. The removal of dominant groups opens up ecological niches and reduces competitive pressure on surviving lineages, allowing them to diversify rapidly into new adaptive zones and explore evolutionary possibilities that were previously constrained. This pattern of renewal through gentle pruning represents one of the fundamental rhythms of life on Earth, ensuring that evolutionary innovation continues across geological timescales and preventing any single group of organisms from becoming so dominant that they inhibit the creative exploration of new possibilities. Like the patient cycles of seasons that ensure continued productivity in natural ecosystems, mass extinctions provide the temporal rhythm that allows life to continually reinvent itself while maintaining the essential continuity that connects all living things across deep time. And with each gentle pruning complete, each cycle of renewal fulfilled through patient time, life prepared for its next great flowering, the patient rise of warm-blooded creativity that would eventually give birth to consciousness, capable of understanding its own beautiful origins in the eternal dance of existence. Drift gently forward through 63 million years of patient transformation, breathing slowly as you witness the emergence of the lineage that will eventually produce the consciousness through which you now observe this ancient story. As you float peacefully through the post-extinction world, imagine yourself watching as small, warm-blooded creatures step carefully from the shadows where they have waited patiently through the long Mesozoic era, ready to explore the vast new possibilities that have opened before them. You are observing the gentle rise of the mammals, but this is not a sudden conquest or dramatic takeover. Instead, picture this as the patient emergence of understudies who have been practicing their parts for millions of years, ready to step into the spotlight when their time finally arrives. Like quiet actors waiting in the wings, while the main drama unfolds on stage, the mammals have been perfecting innovations that will prove perfectly suited to the new world emerging from the extinction transition. Breathe with the rhythm of these early Paleocene mammals as they begin their cautious exploration of ecological niches previously occupied by dinosaurs. These pioneers are still small, most no larger than modern rats or squirrels, but they carry within their warm bodies the innovations that will eventually enable mammals to diversify into the incredible array of forms that populate modern ecosystems. The warm-blooded metabolism that allows mammals to maintain constant body temperature provides enormous advantages in the variable climates of the post-extinction world. As you watch these early mammals foraging through the cooling forests of the early Cenozoic, notice how their ability to remain active during cold periods gives them access to resources unavailable to cold-blooded competitors, creating opportunities for ecological expansion that their predecessors could never have exploited. The sophisticated parental care behaviors that characterize mammalian reproduction allow these animals to invest more energy in each offspring, while producing fewer young, creating a reproductive strategy that favors intelligence and behavioral flexibility over simple numerical abundance. Mammalian mothers nourish their young with milk, a perfect food that provides not only nutrition but also antibodies and other protective compounds that enhance offspring survival in challenging environments. As you drift through these ancient forests, breathing easily as you observe the patient diversification of early mammalian lineages, watch how different groups begin to explore different approaches to making a living in their expanding world. Some mammals develop into efficient runners, evolving longer limbs and more efficient gaits that allow them to cover large distances in search of food or to escape predators. Others become expert climbers, developing grasping hands and feet that allow them to exploit the three-dimensional environment of forest canopies. Still others take to the water, gradually modifying their limbs and body forms to become efficient swimmers, while maintaining the warm-blooded metabolism and air-breathing respiratory system of their terrestrial ancestors. The early primates emerged during this period as tree-dwelling specialists with enhanced vision, grasping hands, and sophisticated social behaviors that allow them to thrive in the complex three-dimensional environment of forest canopies. These early primates are small, lemur-like creatures that feed primarily on insects and fruits, but they carry within their genes the potential for the dramatic brain expansion that will eventually lead to human intelligence. Picture yourself swinging gently through the canopy with these early primates, breathing slowly as you observe their patient development of the characteristics that will prove so important for their descendants. Their forward-facing eyes provide the stereoscopic vision needed for accurate depth perception when leaping between branches. Their grasping hands with opposable thumbs and sensitive fingertips allow for precise manipulation of objects and delicate food items. Most importantly, Their social nature requires sophisticated communication and cooperation skills that create the evolutionary pressures, favoring increased brain size and cognitive capability. Living in groups provides protection from predators and enhanced foraging efficiency, but it also creates complex social dynamics that reward individuals capable of understanding and responding appropriately to the behaviors and intentions of other group members. As you breathe in harmony with the patient rhythms of primate social life, notice how the development of culture, learned behaviors, passed from generation to generation through observation and imitation, begins to supplement genetic inheritance as a mechanism for adapting to environmental challenges. Young primates learn not only from instinct, but also from watching their parents and other group members, acquiring skills and knowledge that enhance their survival and reproductive success. The patient expansion of mammalian diversity during this period creates ecosystems of incredible richness and complexity. The grasslands that develop during the cooling and drying climate of the later Cenozoic support vast herds of grazing mammals, early horses, camels, antelopes, and their relatives, that develop increasingly sophisticated digestive systems for processing tough, fibrous plant material. The predators that evolve to hunt these grazing animals develop remarkable innovations in sensory capability, locomotion, and hunting strategy. The early cats perfect the art of stealth and ambush predation, developing retractable claws, flexible spines, and powerful hindquarters that enable explosive acceleration. The dogs experiment with pack hunting strategies that allow them to bring down prey much larger than themselves through cooperation and persistence. In the oceans, whales begin their remarkable transformation from terrestrial mammals back to fully aquatic lifestyle, demonstrating once again life's ability to return to previously exploited environments when evolutionary conditions favor such transitions. These marine mammals develop echolocation systems more sophisticated than any human-engineered sonar, allowing them to navigate and hunt in the three-dimensional darkness of deep ocean waters. As you float peacefully through the later Cenozoic world, breathing slowly as you observe the continued refinement of mammalian adaptations, notice how the cooling global climate creates new evolutionary pressures that favor different survival strategies. The gradual expansion of grasslands at the expense of forests creates opportunities for mammals that can efficiently exploit this new type of vegetation. The development of seasonal climate patterns in many regions favors mammals capable of behavioral and physiological responses to predictable environmental changes, migration, hibernation, food storage, and other strategies that allow survival through periods of resource scarcity. These innovations require sophisticated nervous systems capable of monitoring environmental cues and coordinating complex behavioral responses. In Africa, the continued drying and cooling climate creates the mosaic of forests and grasslands that provides the environmental context for the most important evolutionary development of this entire period, the emergence of the human lineage from among the diverse African primates. The early hominins represent another patient step in the evolutionary exploration of intelligence and cultural adaptation as survival strategies. Picture yourself walking slowly through the African landscape of 5 million years ago, breathing easily as you observe the early experiments in bipedal locomotion that will prove so important for human evolution. The Australopithecines move gracefully between forest and grassland environments, their upright posture freeing their hands for carrying tools, food, and offspring, while providing enhanced vision across the open landscapes where many of their resources are located. The gradual expansion of brain size in the human lineage represents one of the most rapid evolutionary changes ever documented, driven by the complex social dynamics of group living and the cognitive demands of tool use and cultural transmission. Each generation builds upon the innovations of previous generations, creating a positive feedback loop between cultural complexity and the cognitive capabilities needed to master that complexity. As you breathe slowly and peacefully, witnessing the patient emergence of the human lineage through millions of years of gradual change, notice how this development represents not a goal or destination of evolution, but simply another experiment in the eternal exploration of possibility. Human intelligence and culture represent one approach to survival and reproduction among many, successful in its current environmental context, but subject to the same evolutionary pressures and constraints that govern all life. The development of language, art, and complex technology during human evolution creates new mechanisms for storing and transmitting information across generations, allowing cultural evolution to supplement and eventually largely replace genetic adaptation as the primary means for responding to environmental challenges. This innovation opens up entirely new possibilities for rapid adaptation to changing conditions, while maintaining the genetic continuity that connects humans to all other life on Earth. And as these patient experiments in consciousness begin to bear fruit, as intelligence learns to recognize its own reflection in the mirror of natural history, we drift toward the present moment, where memory and understanding converge in the eternal recognition of our place within the beautiful, interconnected story of life. Drift gently forward through the final 2 million years of this ancient story, breathing slowly as you witness the emergence of the most remarkable phenomenon in Earth's history. Consciousness capable of understanding its own origins and place within the cosmic story of existence. As you float peacefully through this final chapter, imagine yourself observing the patient development of awareness that eventually becomes aware of itself, memory that learns to remember its own deep past. You are witnessing the flowering of human consciousness, but not as a sudden appearance or miraculous intervention. Instead, picture this as the slow opening of Earth's own eyes, as if the planet itself has been dreaming through billions of years, and finally begins to wake up and examine its own beautiful history through the growing awareness of its human children. Breathe with the rhythm of the earliest human cultures as they begin to create the first stories about life's origins and meaning. Around flickering fires in the patient darkness of prehistoric nights, human voices begin to weave narratives that attempt to explain the beauty and complexity of the living world that surrounds them. These early stories represent humanity's first scientific hypotheses, careful observations of natural patterns expressed through the poetry of myth and legend. The Mother Earth traditions that emerge in cultures around the world recognize the fundamental truth that you have been witnessing throughout this journey, that the planet itself is alive, breathing with the patient rhythms of geological and biological processes that create and sustain all life. In these ancient stories, Earth is not a dead rock but a living being, nurturing her children with the same care that mammalian mothers show toward their offspring. As you drift through the oral traditions of indigenous peoples around the world, breathing easily as you listen to their patient observations of natural relationships, notice how these cultures develop sophisticated understanding of ecological connections and seasonal cycles. Their stories preserve detailed knowledge about animal behavior, plant properties, weather patterns, and astronomical relationships that represent thousands of years of careful observation and experimentation. The Aboriginal Dreamtime traditions of Australia speak of the eternal presence of ancestral beings, whose actions continue to shape the landscape and guide the behavior of all living things. These stories recognize the deep continuity that connects present-day organisms to their ancient ancestors, expressing through poetry and ceremony the same truth that modern genetics reveals through DNA analysis, that all life shares common origins and remains connected through the invisible threads of inheritance. Native American traditions honor the sacred relationships between all living beings, recognizing that humans are not separate from nature, but embedded within networks of reciprocity and mutual dependence that require respect and careful attention to maintain their balance. These cultures develop sophisticated practices of sustainable resource management that allow human communities to thrive for thousands of years without destroying the ecological foundations that support them. Picture yourself sitting peacefully around ancient fires as shamans and storytellers share their deep knowledge of the living world, breathing slowly as you absorb wisdom traditions that represent humanity's first systematic studies of biology, ecology, and environmental science. These oral libraries preserve detailed information about the medicinal properties of thousands of plants, the behavioral patterns of hundreds of animals, and the complex seasonal rhythms that govern natural cycles of growth and reproduction. As you breathe in harmony with these ancient wisdom traditions, notice how the development of written language allows human cultures to begin preserving and accumulating knowledge across many generations, creating the possibility for systematic investigation of natural phenomena. The earliest written texts include careful observations of astronomical cycles, medical treatments derived from natural materials, and agricultural techniques based on deep understanding of soil, water, and plant biology. The Greek natural philosophers begin the patient work of developing systematic methods for investigating natural phenomena, asking questions about the fundamental nature of matter and life that will eventually lead to modern scientific understanding. Aristotle's careful observations of marine organisms represent some of the earliest systematic biological research, documenting the anatomy and behavior of hundreds of species with accuracy that will not be surpassed for over 1,000 years. The patient development of scientific methods during the Renaissance and Enlightenment creates the tools that will eventually allow human consciousness to reconstruct the entire history of life on Earth, through careful analysis of fossils, geological formations, and living organisms. The invention of the microscope reveals the hidden world of cells and microorganisms, opening up entirely new realms of biological investigation and understanding. As you drift through the scientific revolution, breathing slowly as you witness the gradual accumulation of evidence about life's history, picture yourself in the patient laboratories where researchers begin to piece together the puzzle of evolution. The work of scientists like Darwin represents not sudden inspiration, but the careful synthesis of decades of observation and analysis, connecting patterns observed in living organisms to the fossil record preserved in sedimentary rocks. The development of evolutionary theory provides the conceptual framework that finally allows human consciousness to understand its own origins and relationship to all other life on Earth. Rather than being separate from nature or specially created, humans are revealed to be part of the same evolutionary process that has shaped all living things, connected through the unbroken chain of descent that links every organism to the first cells that appeared in Earth's primordial oceans. The discovery of DNA and the genetic code represents one of the most profound scientific achievements in human history, revealing the molecular mechanisms that preserve and transmit the information of life across generations, while allowing for the gradual changes that drive evolutionary innovation. The same four-letter genetic alphabet that spells out the instructions for building a bacterium also contains the information needed to construct human consciousness, capable of reading and understanding its own genetic text. As you breathe peacefully, floating through the modern era of biological discovery, notice how each new scientific advancement deepens rather than diminishes the sense of wonder and connection that characterizes humanity's relationship with the living world. The more we learn about the intricate molecular machinery that powers cellular processes, the more remarkable these systems appear. The deeper we investigate evolutionary relationships, the more clearly we see our fundamental kinship with all life. The development of molecular biology and genomics allows scientists to trace evolutionary relationships with unprecedented precision, constructing detailed family trees that connect all living organisms through their shared genetic heritage. These studies reveal that the biochemical processes that sustain human life are essentially identical to those found in the simplest bacteria, demonstrating the profound unity that underlies biological diversity. Modern ecological research reveals the complex networks of interdependence that connect all organisms within ecosystems, showing how the health of human communities depends ultimately on the health of the natural systems that support them. Climate science demonstrates how human activities are beginning to alter the atmospheric and oceanic processes that regulate Earth's climate, creating new challenges that require unprecedented levels of international cooperation and long-term thinking. The emerging field of astrobiology extends the search for life beyond Earth, using our understanding of life's requirements and characteristics to guide the exploration of other worlds that might harbor living organisms. This research places Earth's biosphere in cosmic context, helping us understand how the conditions that allowed life to emerge and evolve here might exist elsewhere in the universe. As you drift through the accumulated knowledge of modern science, breathing slowly as you contemplate the vast scope of human understanding that has developed over just a few centuries of systematic investigation, notice how this knowledge creates both humility and responsibility. We are revealed to be recent arrivals in an ancient story, temporary participants in processes that began billions of years before our species existed, and will continue long after we are gone. Yet, we are also the first species in Earth's history to develop the cognitive capabilities needed to understand our own evolutionary origins and ecological relationships. With this understanding comes the responsibility to make choices that honor our connections to all life, and ensure that the processes that created us can continue to create new forms of beauty and complexity in the future. The great conversations between science and traditional knowledge systems create opportunities for synthesis and integration that honor both empirical investigation and indigenous wisdom, recognizing that different cultures and methodologies can contribute complementary insights to our understanding of life's patterns and processes. These dialogues point toward more holistic approaches to environmental stewardship that combine scientific rigor with cultural values and spiritual recognition of our embeddedness within natural systems. And as human understanding flowers into recognition of our deep kinship with all life, as consciousness learns to see itself as Earth's own awakening awareness, we prepare for the final gentle exhale of this eternal story, floating toward rest in the knowledge that we are forever part of the cosmic dream that dreams itself into existence. Drift gently now beyond the present moment, breathing slowly as we float together toward the patient future that awaits all life on Earth. As you rest peacefully in the embrace of deep time, imagine yourself floating on the same cosmic river that has carried life through 4.5 billion years of patient creativity, continuing now toward horizons that stretch far beyond the brief span of human history into the vast, gentle eternity that cradles all existence. You are witnessing the long, slow sunset of life on Earth, but this is not an ending to fear or mourn. Instead, picture this as the peaceful conclusion of the most beautiful story ever told, as Earth herself begins to prepare for rest after billions of years of nurturing life with the patient devotion of the most loving mother. Like a grandmother settling into her favorite chair at the end of a long day filled with the laughter and growth of children, Earth begins her gentle preparation for the eternal sleep that awaits all planets in the cosmic cycle of stellar evolution. Breathe with the rhythm of the distant future, as the sun gradually brightens and warms, creating climate changes that will slowly and gently alter the conditions that have supported complex life for so long. The oceans that have cradled life since its earliest beginnings will slowly evaporate into the warming atmosphere, rising like the gentlest mist toward the patient embrace of space, carrying with them the dissolved memories of billions of years of biological innovation and creativity. The last forests will release their final breath of oxygen into the thinning atmosphere, their leaves rustling with the whispered stories of all the creatures that once found shelter beneath their branches. The final flowers will open their petals to pollinating insects that have co-evolved with them across millions of generations, completing one last perfect act of cooperation before both partners fade gently into the fossil record that preserves their eternal partnership. As you float peacefully through this distant time, breathing slowly as you witness life's patient preparation for rest, notice how even in ending, life demonstrates the same elegant grace that has characterized every chapter of its long story. The last living cells will maintain their essential functions with the same precision and dedication that motivated the first prokaryotes in Earth's primordial seas, honoring the sacred responsibility of keeping the spark of organization and awareness burning as long as conditions permit. But the end of life on Earth is not the end of life's influence on the cosmos. The elements forged in living organisms, the carbon concentrated in shells and bones, the oxygen produced by billions of years of photosynthesis, the complex organic molecules that encode the memory of biological processes, will be scattered gently through space as Earth's atmosphere is stripped away by the expanding sun, carrying the chemical legacy of our planet's biological experiment to other worlds where it may seed new stories of life and consciousness. Picture yourself floating among these molecular messengers as they drift through the cosmic dark, each one carrying within its atomic structure the memory of the processes that created it. Carbon atoms that once formed the backbone of DNA molecules carry forward the information of life's creativity. Phosphorus atoms that once powered cellular metabolism preserve the memory of energy transformation and growth. Nitrogen atoms that once formed the proteins of thinking brains maintain the potential for future consciousness in whatever worlds they eventually encounter. The cosmic recycling that returns Earth's biological elements to the stellar medium ensures that the creativity and complexity achieved by life on our planet becomes part of the raw material for future planets and future experiments in organization and awareness. Like seeds scattered by the wind to find new soil where they can sprout and grow, the atomic legacy of Earth's biosphere drifts patiently through space toward futures we cannot imagine, but can trust, will honor the creative principles that guided evolution's patient exploration of possibility. As you breathe slowly and deeply, floating in the gentle embrace of cosmic time that makes all individual lifespans seem like single heartbeats in the eternal rhythm of existence, feel yourself connected not just to Earth's biological history, but to the vast community of life that may exist throughout the universe. Every star system may harbor its own patient experiments in organization and consciousness, each one exploring different possibilities for matter to become aware of itself and create beauty through the slow dance of evolution and emergence. The story of life on Earth becomes part of a larger story, the universe gradually awakening to its own existence through the development of consciousness in countless locations across space and time. Each planet that develops life contributes its own unique chapter to this cosmic autobiography, exploring different pathways for matter to organize itself into forms capable of wonder, creativity, and love. In this larger perspective, human consciousness represents not the goal or culmination of evolution, but one beautiful moment in the universe's ongoing exploration of its own potential for self-awareness and creative expression. Our scientific understanding of life's history becomes one way that the cosmos learns to remember its own past and appreciate the elegant processes that created the conditions for consciousness to emerge from the patient chemistry of stellar nucleosynthesis and planetary formation. Our capacity for wonder and appreciation becomes the universe's own appreciation for its beauty and complexity, expressed through the temporary but precious awareness that emerges when matter organizes itself into nervous systems capable of contemplating the cosmic processes that created them. Our love for life and each other becomes the cosmos's own love for itself, the affection that existence feels for its own creative potential, as expressed through the countless forms of beauty and relationship that evolution discovers through patient experimentation. As you rest peacefully in this recognition of your cosmic context and significance, breathing slowly as you feel yourself cradled in the same processes that created galaxies and stars and planets and the long, patient evolution of life toward consciousness, notice how the entire story we have shared together returns to its beginning, the slow, gentle breathing of existence itself, as it explores the infinite possibilities contained within the fundamental laws that govern matter and energy, space and time. Your own breathing at this moment continues the same rhythm that began with Earth's first exhalation of volcanic gases into the primordial atmosphere. Your heartbeat echoes the same pulse that drove the tides in ancient seas where life first learned to organize itself into patterns of beauty and function. Your consciousness participates in the same awareness that guides the formation of galaxies and the patient evolution of stars through their life cycles of creation and transformation. The story of life on Earth that we have shared tonight becomes your own story, connecting you through the unbroken chain of descent to the first cells that appeared in warm tide pools billions of years ago. The carbon in your body was forged in the nuclear fires of ancient stars. The water in your cells once fell as rain on primordial continents. The genes in your DNA preserve information that has been copied and transmitted across billions of years through countless generations of patient cellular division and reproduction. You are not separate from this story, but intimately embedded within it, a temporary expression of the same creative processes that built trilobites and dinosaurs, forests and coral reefs, the complex ecosystems that have sustained life's creativity across geological time. Your ability to understand and appreciate this story represents one of evolution's most remarkable achievements, matter organized into patterns so sophisticated that it can contemplate its own origins and place within the cosmic dance of existence. As you prepare for sleep, breathing slowly and deeply, as your consciousness begins to fade gently into the restorative darkness that mirrors the cosmic dark from which all complexity emerges, carry with you the peaceful recognition that you are forever part of this eternal story. Every breath connects you to the atmospheric processes that have sustained life for billions of years. Every heartbeat echoes the rhythmic processes that power all living systems. Every dream participates in the cosmic dreaming that dreams itself into ever greater beauty and awareness. Rest now in the knowledge that the same processes that created you continue their patient work throughout the universe, exploring new possibilities for organization and consciousness on countless worlds orbiting distant stars. Sleep peacefully in the embrace of deep time that holds all moments past, present and future, in the eternal now where existence contemplates its own infinite creativity through every form of beauty and awareness it discovers. And as life on Earth exhales its eternal breath, so too may you exhale, drifting gently into rest, wrapped in the universal embrace that connects you forever to the cosmic story of awakening consciousness, floating peacefully in the infinite ocean of existence that dreams itself into being through every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of wonder and appreciation. As you drift deeper into peaceful sleep, I'm curious which aspect of life's 4.5 billion year story sparked the most wonder in your mind tonight. Was it the patient emergence of those first cells in Earth's primordial tide pools, learning to breathe chemical whispers and transform simple molecules into the miracle of living organization? Perhaps it was the elegant dance of cellular cooperation that created complex cells, or the gentle courage required for life to leave the supportive embrace of ancient oceans and venture onto the empty continents. Maybe it was the breathtaking creativity of the Cambrian blossoming, where life experimented with forms so imaginative they seem like products of cosmic artistry, or the patient transformation that allowed small mammals to inherit the Earth and eventually give rise to consciousness, capable of understanding its own beautiful origins. Was it the profound realization that every atom in your body carries the memory of stellar nucleosynthesis, that every breath connects you to billions of years of atmospheric evolution, that every heartbeat echoes the ancient rhythms that have sustained life since its earliest beginnings? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue this journey through Earth's living history together. Tell us which discovery felt most deeply connected to your own experience of being part of this cosmic story, or which future revelation you're most excited to explore, as we continue unfolding the beautiful mysteries that connect us all to the magnificent processes of biological evolution and planetary development. If this gentle lullaby of life's history helped you discover something profound about your place within the eternal story of existence, while finding perfect peace for restorative sleep, consider subscribing for more journeys through the patient mysteries that reveal how consciousness emerged from chemistry, how complexity arose from cooperation, how beauty and awareness evolved through billions of years of creative experimentation to create the perfect conditions for wonder and appreciation. Tomorrow night, we might explore other chapters in the cosmic story, perhaps the patient formation of our solar system from the dust of ancient supernovas, or the gentle emergence of human consciousness through millions of years of cultural evolution, or the beautiful mathematics that governs the formation of galaxies and guides the patient orbits of planets around their nurturing stars. Sweet dreams, fellow explorers of life's eternal mysteries. Remember, you are intimately connected to this beautiful, patient, ongoing story through every cell in your body, every breath that sustains your consciousness, every moment of wonder and appreciation that connects you to the cosmic processes that created the conditions for awareness to emerge from matter and contemplate its own magnificent origins with infinite gratitude and peaceful recognition of your place within the universal embrace that holds all existence in its loving awareness. Sleep well, knowing that the same gentle forces that guided evolution's patient creativity continue their work throughout the cosmos, exploring new possibilities for consciousness and beauty on countless worlds, each one adding its unique voice to the universe's growing understanding of its own creative potential, through the eternal dance of matter and energy, time and space, awakening to itself through every form of life and awareness it discovers in its infinite exploration of what it means to exist, to experience, to appreciate the profound beauty of being part of something infinitely larger and more wonderful than any single moment can contain.